Okay, so you're one of my new favorite people. You're one of the first people I've ever interviewed before. I'm normally like having people ask me questions. So being on the other side for me is like, I don't want to ask those annoying questions that everyone asks me. And I'm like, why didn't they think of something more clever? So I did make some notes, just so you know. But first of all, I love you. I'm so thankful that you're on this planet, that you exist, that you're here, and that you have taken all of your pain and all of what you've been through and all of what you've seen in this world, and you have, like an alchemist, turned it into pure gold. And you've shared that gold with us, a path to wisdom. I know you wrote a path to excellence that everybody's going to be so excited about for spring 2020. So when I read A Path to Wisdom, well, technically I listened to it on Audible, which is the best, except that it's not your soothing voice. It's that dude Joel's voice who's like, ugh, I had to speed it up just to get through it. No, I'm kidding. But what was a major takeaway for me was something that I found in my life, the importance of the mind-body connection. And I both didn't have it at all, and then in finding it have been able to completely alter the trajectory of my narrative overall, I think. And you immediately dive into that, and you talk about illnesses and the effect the mind has on the body, and the profundity of how it can actually, using the mind, you can pull yourself out of the illnesses, and you explain your own personal story in that. And I think that it's really profound. So for me, in taking your wisdom and taking all these things that you've shared in such an incredibly open way, one of my first questions is, when you take on a client and you get to know them, and I'm sure you do an initial meeting and everything, but when you're already ready to dive in and they're there in front of you and you're in the room, what is either the first question you ask or your favorite question to ask a new client?
I have about 10,000 questions I've written.
Okay,
it's
so any, many, miny, mo.
Yes, it's actually the truth. And the reason being, it's a long time ago I realized it is the quality of the question we ask that can bring the quality of the answer that we are seeking.
Right. Say that again. It's the quality of the question that you ask, which can bring the quality of the answer you're seeking.
We are seeking.
Right.
And just profound. That one, just the way you stopped in there, if we really stopped what that truly means in our reality, we can make about, I don't know how many shifts and changes in our psychology. And most of the conscious aware people today, and what I mean conscious, anybody who has a mobile phone, anybody who's read a book, anybody who's done something with their life, they have some form of awareness of where they are.
Right.
And the next step that person can take, with one simple question, I've created a breakthrough in a client.
I know. I mean, I sit down with you for 5 minutes before our interviews yesterday, and I'm like, my whole life has been transformed. I feel like Tony should charge me for this. You do. You ask such profound questions. And I think it's really interesting. I also love, I have a real affinity for the inner child process. And I noticed in the documentary, you talk about that. And that's been a major way that I've helped heal from the experience of abuses and assault that I've had in my life, is to reintegrate and connect with my inner child and see her as my little baby. That I won't let anybody do anything to hurt her now. I'm like, get away. So how important is the work with you and your client in diving into the inner child and that process? And is there a unique story or something that stands out to you with that work, to the extent that you're able to share?
Absolutely. I mean, I can share certain things, and obviously there are many clients out there who speak about this work.
Okay, cool.
And just to give you an example, I had a client who basically came to me without knowing the reason behind their anger. Okay. So a lot of people, and this is actually a current client that I'm working with, and the anger represents itself even in hitting.
Becoming violent physically.
Becoming physically violent. And sometimes does not mean hitting a person, also means hitting a wall, hitting a door, and not just almost having this split personality. And when I start working with clients like that, for sure I can fire up a lot of questions, and I want to go to the point where there was a split in the psychology, where the perceptions of that specific events that makes them angry have been skewed.
Right. When the brain fires together, wires together, when that moment happened. Okay.
So bring them into that moment in time and then look at the
you actually take them into that moment.
Yes, I'm taking them into that moment.
Okay.
But as I talk about in Path to Wisdom, the inner child work. So because there's the three states the anger can come from your inner child, which would be usually a disempowered inner child critic, that communicates to your disempowered inner child adult, that communicates to your disempowered inner part parent, the critic parent.
The three textbook parts of us.
Yes, the three textbook parts. But they also, you might be in the awareness of saying, okay, I'm a nurturing parent.
Right.
But then this conflict inside of you, of your inner child being naughty and being angry and everything else, no matter how much you want to throw the parent, if those communication and the word you use very nicely, very correctly, integration hasn't happened, you will feel you have a split personality within the self.
Wow.
And you would feel also that if, going back to my client, to the anger, as we went back, the anger started at a very young age where he was made, where his father used to tell him to always shut up. So he never had the voice to say something, even when the child felt maybe the mother didn't like what the father said. Maybe they didn't like in the way they did something, but they weren't empowered to be able to speak up.
Right.
So just that process can create stories, something we spoke about it in our own lives and how we've overcome that, that basically eventually turn into behaviors, disempowered states of beliefs, and something that the body responds automatically. It creates those automatic responses that later on, if we observe ourselves saying, that wasn't me.
Right. It doesn't feel like us at all.
Yes.
And I'm sure you find this to be the case in working with your clients, but oftentimes when we do look back and the guilt that comes, shame that comes with having done something that doesn't feel like us at all, because it is a split and it really is not our true essence, then the defense mechanisms, right?
Yes.
So how do you navigate when you're entering into that realm where you're bringing your client into inner child and you're showcasing that critical parent voice inside, and maybe, let's bring it more to the nurturing parent and remarry, and their defense mechanisms fly? Like, what is it the questions, like, once again, you divert back to questions to break down that?
I believe, this is my personal belief, other people may disagree with this, but I believe that the body, through the human energy field, which I talk about in #loneliness, the moment we meet somebody has this inheritance intelligence to see if we can trust this person or not.
Right. Which, when I met you, I automatically was like, I could not trust him for sure. I mean, he's clearly...
Clearly is going to see me for who I am.
Stay away from Tony.
He will reveal all my secrets.
I clearly have an affinity for things that are just not good for me. No, I mean, instantly, I think someone sitting down in your office is like, okay, I'm going to reveal my whole life to this man. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. It's an energy field. It's like children. Children go off of energy.
Children do that because basically they don't have the ability yet develop the logical ability for them to use all their logic to make decisions.
Right.
But the body has the wisdom. All of our senses tells us a message to our brain. And usually children's psychology up to the age 5 or 6, they tend to build the psychology through emotions, through feeling things. And making sense of their reality through those emotions.
Right.
So for me, one of the things that I know from many clients from around the world, when they give me feedback, is that, Tony, you just know how to love us.
Yeah.
And how to create that safe space where things can come out that you may not be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
You may have guilt and shame and all sorts of things. And frankly, just recently I had a conversation with a lady.
Okay.
She actually literally asked me, is that I want to work with you. I'm just afraid what you're going to find out about me. Literally, those are the words she just told me.
Oh, that breaks my heart to hear that.
And she said to me, you know what? I'm afraid to get in touch with that part of myself.
Yeah.
And
how honest of her to be able to actually pick up on that.
It was one of the viewers from Living My Illusion.
Oh, really?
Yes.
From the documentary.
And then she was at the talk as well. And she approached me straight after the talk. She bought the books, both Path to Wisdom, and I did a message.
Yeah.
Because when I sensed the message, one of the things I picked up in her vibration, it's like almost this insecurity in the legs.
Interesting.
It was like this. My legs became
Just
very
fidgeting,
wobbly, and I went
wobbly.
like, okay, is this mine or is this hers?
Right.
And then the moment I said it's hers, it just disappeared. I felt like, you know, like in these movies, in the Matrix, you just transform the energy.
Yeah.
And what I found amazing, being able to sense that and then communicate it to a client in a way that makes sense to them.
To them, right. To speak in their language.
To speak into them. And then she opened up to me. She said to me, you are spot on.
Wow.
And she went like with a laughter. I don't know whether I should slap you or kiss you. But you're like, spot
both,
on.
honey.
So it is that safe space that somebody who, like myself, dedicated their lives to help people. We all dedicate our lives to something.
Because you spent so much time in not very safe spaces.
Yeah.
And didn't necessarily have a Tony at the time to walk you through this. And so you have been open about how you also have mentors and you have people that you go to. So what would be something, I think it's important that people realize that the growth journey doesn't end. You don't figure it out, get the tools, and then you're done. You've read all of the books. They will definitely help you, but it's not over after that.
Over.
So what would be something that in your life, in you know, recently, or something where you needed to implement the TJS method. or bring in support? What would be something that shows you, hey, shows everyone Tony's human. He goes through these things too.
Correct.
Or something like that.
I talk publicly about all of my teachers, and my teachers comes from two perspectives. Because my vision is to really bring this work in education, in healthcare, in business, in leadership, infiltrate the method so more people can do it, and create licensing modules and help elevate the evolution of human consciousness. So even the issues, the ones that you talk in your movie, Milkshake Girls and other things you're going to be creating, can have a tool, those girls, to work with, to raise their awareness and to have a different behavior and to expand the awareness of what's happening around them so they don't find themselves in situations that could be life-threatening.
Right.
So, you know, it's, I love when you spoke about it, the milkshake. It's about bringing that awareness, because that's what you are doing with your Love Storm and with the rest of the organization to help these people who go through human trafficking.
Yes.
So basically, I consistently invest in my personal development. Currently, I'm working with Dr. John DeMartini. He's one of the leading experts in human behavior.
Okay.
So basically, I love nurturing myself with new wisdom.
Yeah.
Because basically, what I found, not only in my life, but with many clients that I work globally, we are like nature. We tell those words, but we then say, oh, I don't need a coach. I don't need a mentor. I don't need an expert. I can do it myself.
I've got the answers,
I've got the answers. And actually, one of the famous ladies who was in our festival together, I challenged her on that. And she was very open to receive. And when you're open to receive, you'll gain a new perspective. And the metaphor that I use, and I use a lot of metaphors in my teachings, I said, well, I don't disagree with you with what you just said, but I said, can you tell me what limits you in the way you speak?
Interesting.
Okay. And she stopped me and she said, nobody asked me that question. I have it everything inside, but I said, you just here with me. I'm asking a question. You can't give me an answer, but you tell me it's inside of you. And I said, let me give you another metaphor. I said, okay, you see the entire stuff. Everything we see comes from within the earth.
Yeah.
But it took a man to create buildings, to create cameras, TV, technology, and all of that.
Exactly.
So a mentor, a coach, it's that.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
Which means can go inside of you, take all of those experiences. If, for instance, you're seeking a business coach, for sure, we can go into a transaction and see how I can help you create the wealth that you want to create and the impact you want to create, so it's in alignment with you. If you are seeking a partner, let's go in there. Because 30 years, I wanted to go and study from the best teachers and synthesize all of that into a TJSE method that now consistently and use those principles, plus other tools that I use, like with John and other mentors and billionaires that I work to help me awaken that billionaire.
Right.
Because I have done the millions. I have worked on those levels. I have sold many copies of my books. I have helped many other people.
But it doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. And I'm very open about it, because here we are in here. Here I am with you. We shared earlier on something I'm working on a big. Yes. Out of that idea, I can create a whole new idea.
Absolutely.
And we're going to both need the support and challenge to make that and materialize that.
Yes.
And for me, the beauty about life is the fact that in this physical reality, it is that last breath that your desire to create in physical reality stops.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Get chills. Well, and we were talking, the other day, and you were saying something that I think is really important, because there is access right within ourselves to the collective consciousness or what have you. And you said in order to activate that within yourself, you were spending a couple of weeks, I think, or more at 8 hours of meditation,
yes,
focused in meditation. I think that's something really interesting that I know in my own life, using breath work, using a stomach heart breath that kind of releases the natural made DMT inside my body, has created images and visions of things that I feel like it's a memory, but it hasn't happened yet. And it's guided me in a different way that's ended up being really profound in my life. Can you talk a little bit about how you do utilize the wisdom within yourself in that capacity?
Yes. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things in there, but I want to stress the importance of doing both, utilizing the wisdom within and utilizing experts around you who can help you extract that wisdom within, and put it in a framework.
Or just ask the right question.
Yes, and put it in a framework that helps you make the next steps safely.
Safely.
Because for instance, if the body, a lot of people tell me my intuition tells me that. But when I start questioning them, it's not intuition, it's their feelings, it's the emotions behind that. It's not the true intuition.
Right. You need accountability to know that right.
So
and you've been on that journey, and you have those accountability partners.
And there have been moments where I've been extremely arrogant towards external influence of my being, meaning being taught something. So especially at moments we've both gone through when we are at the lowest in ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, it was after the Civil War, fully broken on the streets with surviving on a piece of bread. You could see my bones.
You experienced homelessness.
Yes,
in
for
England,
6 months. Yeah.
For 6 months. Yeah.
So, and I talk about it in #loneliness because there are so many people out there. Homelessness does not just mean physical. You could be homeless in your own mind.
Right.
With the people you love, in restaurant, in family, in an idea you want to share with the world. You could be alone.
Yeah.
Or even with somebody you're intimate and you still feel alone.
Right.
So there are so many aspects of that. I see it in business all the time, in big corporations who they hire me to inspire and educate their people.
Yeah.
You've got levels of open offices and people don't know each other's name.
Wow.
There's no interaction.
Right.
So there are many levels when I access my own self in those 12 weeks I shared with you. I went with an intent, but when I did that, I've already done 30 years of work.
Right.
Study, research, serving people. I run multi-billion-pound technology programs. I run all the security behind that. I manage a lot of people, developed a lot of people, continued to study with my mentors. So I went into a space with a different awareness.
Right.
But if we go into a space like that with an awareness, I would say, with less awareness of the integration within that we create. Right. It also can be destructive.
It can be destructive. So having that accountability, having someone to go to, and if you aren't in that if you haven't fully gotten to that place, doing that, but under the guidance of an expert or a mentor.
I would recommend in my heart is every child in the world to have a mentor and a coach outside the educational system, outside the people that they know. Yeah. Because if mentorship and education in America is pretty much embraced, but Europe and other countries is still, I would say, evolving and still something that people slowly are adopting because they've had this skepticism about that.
Because obviously, it doesn't really make sense to help the most important organ in your brain, in your body, the thing that makes everything else work. Why would you help that?
But also,
what's wrong with you, Tony? You want to help your brain? This is baffling to me. I find it really intriguing because it's literally shamed.
Yes, shamed.
It's like, okay, so if I need a new kidney, no problem. Yeah. There are no new brains. Yeah. I don't get a brain transplant, right? Yes. So I'm supposed to not care for the brain because you're going to laugh at me if I do. Yeah. But then that's the thing that makes the kidneys work. That's the thing that makes the liver, the heart, everything else function. It's it is something that we so need to change our language around. And I think that books like #loneliness, A Path to Wisdom documentaries like Living My Illusion,
Milkshake Girls, and all the things that we work in, all of us together. Yes,
you wake it up. So with and kind of going into the documentary a little bit, I think, it was really amazing to see that film, and really I had no idea what I was walking into. I obviously met you in Madrid at the Madrid International Film Festival, and Living My Illusion was the last film. I was there for like 36 hours. Luckily, it was the last film closing the festival that week, and I was able to see it. And I found it to be really, really many things that you said were really profound. But I thought it was really incredible, this powerful moment where you have Joel, you have Timea, you have Tony, you're sitting there and they're going through this big moment in their life that is probably, the moment that everyone in a relationship fears. And you actually, as a viewer, I can see you are physically, emotionally, spiritually invested, heartbroken, seeking to be able to be. How invested do you notice that you become with your clients, and how does that have an impact on them, like for Joel and Timea in their journey with you?
Well, I personally believe we're no different to a bank account. Meaning the more money you invest into your bank account, the more rewards you're going to receive as you go through life. Right. So I see wisdom and knowledge, and there's two different things, by the way, but anything that you put into your brain that can help you in your own journey, and as you integrate that, becomes this powerful knowledge and wisdom that you can take another person through a process without engaging emotionally in that situation.
Right.
But being able to not only hear with your ear of what you saw in the last moment, which was almost 2.5 hours, by the way. Yeah. You only saw 10 minutes of that, because a lot of people saw all the tears on Timea's vest.
Right.
I was through all of that process with her and with Joel. Yeah. And I think it's extremely important when you go through a moment like that to work with somebody who can hold that space, but not a friend. Okay, a lot of people tell me, oh, I go to my girlfriends or boyfriends and we speak about it. Yeah. They don't have that kind of expertise to be able.
Well, they don't have the boundaries right too. They're going to have their biases.
And all of that. So for me, because I've spent a lot of time wanting to learn and being curious about life, and being curious about creating this bridge between our essence, our spiritual self, and our material physical self, and how that integrates and synchronizes with every event through our senses and through our brain and how we perceive things in life. And knowing how the brain works and knowing the amount of thoughts we nowadays scientifically have proven have, and almost 85% of that being negative in our subconscious mind, I realized the power of tapping in through powerful questioning into the unconscious biases people develop. Right. And almost like a shining light, not telling them what it is, but with them, as they see the light, they can take the next step towards a direction in which their own light guides them to good. And make a decision in that space, not from the space when you have all this turmoil. Right. That happens, and sometimes people make bad decisions because they don't have emotional mastery. Right.
Your outlook on the world, you have a lot of concepts that even challenge my thoughts, and I love that, because I just wanted to learn and grow too. But you said something about forgiveness that was very profound to me. And you said, no, it doesn't work. Don't believe in it. And I think a lot of people might be like, and you call yourself a teacher? Like, what are you talking about? So I would love for you to touch on that a little bit. And then the question to that is, how do you relay, and maybe you can do that here, but how do you relay such controversial concepts to a very new mind who's not necessarily primed for this information in a short period of time? How do you get down into, is it a question? Like, what is it that allows you to get into like 5 minutes on a tube, you know, like they start a conversation with you. Tony, I know you, I read your book. What are you talking about?
Well, you're not only controversial about sex topics, but you are controversial about also across the board. I lived my life trying to forgive myself and trying to go to so many teachers and so many people who kept me in that forgiveness space.
Right.
And there was a moment in my life when I realized there's nothing to forgive, but everything to love.
Yeah.
And I also realized that teaching forgiveness, it's based on morals and ethics, that you do something I don't.
Right.
Okay? And studying with some of the best teachers and developing my own method and going out there, I realized that every human being has what I have, and everything they do, I have it.
Right.
And I think I'm getting goosebumps as well
Yeah.
and tears of inspiration. Yeah. It's when you become in yourself nothing and you are everything in the moment of nothing.
Yeah.
You realize that no human being out there, no matter what they've done or not done, they're worthy of love. Yeah. It's something also my teacher taught me about this, that for me I took that and I started really applying all of my science and all of my knowledge and all of my healing experiences and all the stuff that made me, crushed me, and all the stuff that brought me at a level I am today and continuously growing.
Right.
And I realized that in every moment the balance was there.
The balance was there.
And because our brain and everything we fed to our brain through every situation doesn't see that balance that exists in the perceptions of our reality,
yeah.
we tend to live in past and seeking forgiveness.
Right.
But we teach presence.
Right.
In
where
presence,
there's okay.
Correct. In presence, we only have love and gratitude. So how on earth can I go and judge myself in a moment in time when my awareness wasn't in match with what I am today?
Right.
And
it
that
doesn't
for
actually
me,
make sense.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I tried to make sense in every single way I could think of, and I
so
said,
here I am in this moment.
Yes.
I have a total different outlook, and I am today person. I'm not any other person but today person. So let me run back over here and forgive this part that doesn't exist anymore. It just does not make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I've made some of my clients do exactly that. I made them do that, move spaces, because you know in NLP and many different tools, you take people through different states.
Right, physically.
And when I ask people the question, when you are in denial, you try to answer that person with this awareness. And I have to bring them back saying, you're not this person, you're with me at the moment. We need to go back into that moment the way you were thinking.
Right.
And then when you bring the situation together and you see a biased perspective of that situation without your brain wanting to be in the present but judging the past,
right,
you realize there's nothing you need to forgive to yourself. And also trying to forgive somebody else, I use this method. Meaning you've done something, I don't see in myself, or God, I blame God about it.
Wow, yeah.
So I use this methodology consistently when we point any finger to anything, and I challenge my clients to find those three things within ourselves that relates to the things that we judge outwardly.
Pointing back, right.
It might not be in the same form.
Right.
It could be in another form that my client doesn't see it, but with powerful questioning, they start seeing, yes, they are judging.
Because it's a correction of perspective versus a need for forgiveness.
Correct.
The capacity to switch chairs. If you move to sit here, you now see out the window, I now see in the dining room, and suddenly I have a new perspective in the exact same room, in the exact same moment, everything's changed. And so that, to me, that is the embodiment of what I've taken away from the TJS method, is this is an entire world inside your brain.
Yes.
And the change doesn't come from, I'm going to work and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it. No, it's an intention to alter your perspective and then time, right? Time, practice makes the master, the rewiring the brain, creating new neural pathways, and that neural network that develops as a result of putting in the practice and the application of the tools. So when that has started to take root and transformation has started to happen in the lives of your clients, and you see that kind of where they were and where they wanted to be in that gap closing. Yeah. What would be something, maybe like a unique story or a personal kind of moment that you really felt it with them? I mean, you obviously feel it with them, all of them, but if there's one that really sticks out to you, it'd be cool to know that victory moment.
I mean, the victory, we are here at Living My Illusion in Cardiff, and I can just literally mention not only Timmy and Joel, because this wasn't even their picture when we started this work.
Right. You don't know the outcome.
You don't know the outcome. And a lot of people, we go to somebody expecting results, expecting something.
I want this to happen. You fix me now.
You fix me now, yes. So, and always when we have the first consultation with my clients, I just tell them, you're going on a journey of self-discovery. With no preset outcome, because the more you awaken...
Because you're discovering. You can't have a preset outcome if you're discovering.
Because as I said to you, as more you awaken this intelligence within you, your choices will change. Your choices of the way you think and the way you behave and the way you value things will start shifting and changing.
Because you're the person today, not the one who met Tony for the first time.
Correct.
2 months ago,
2 months ago. 2 months ago, many things have happened. I can tell you 200 stories.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I have clients who've come to me for wealth building, and we've created some incredible opportunities in there. I've had clients who come to me for health issues. I mean, I've recently this year I only worked with 6 different clients who I helped them with epilepsy. And so far none of them have any more signs of it.
No more epilepsy.
No more signs of epilepsy.
Are they being treated? They
were being treated. They were being treated. I mean, one of my clients who works for oil and gas industry, I can mention his name because he shares openly, Paul McMonagle, he lived 22 years with medication. And frankly invested most of his salary to work with me. He came and listened to one of my talks, and it literally clicked at him that his entire life was fixed around medication, drugs, hard drugs, medical drugs, every single drugs.
Taking into the body.
Taking aid, but not addressing the real issues that create that split in psychology that then creates in chemical imbalances and all the different effects.
That causes the seizure.
And it causes a seizure. From a spiritual perspective, this is what I've learned, because we've had epilepsy in my own life.
Okay.
And my brother was cured from epilepsy by a spiritual teacher who had nothing to do with the medical.
Paul doesn't have the symptoms anymore.
He doesn't have
and
it anymore.
Not on treatment.
He's not on treatment, yes.
Wow.
So, there are many different wonderful stories, including helping women attract the right ideal partner that they want, because a lot of successful women find themselves lonely.
Right.
So this work
putting that masculine energy at work, they don't know how to switch.
So it touches your spirituality, meaning if you're somebody out there, you've achieved certain things, and you want to refine your spirituality, you want to do something with your spirituality, we go there, we use the method. If it is your mindset, your psychology, you want to upgrade your psychology for the outcomes you want, we go there. And there are many clients from all of those different perspectives that they share openly their breakthroughs they create in it. Incredible. So for me, just mentioning while we're here with Living My Illusion, I've seen it for almost 30 times, AnnaLynne. And it's, as an observer, when I'm in there, I don't think this process, what's happening with my clients. But when I sit in the audience, I'm the audience.
Right.
And I cry even watching that.
Wow.
And I say where they were, where they've come, and what has evolved in that journey. And all those twists and turns, and all those pain and pleasures, and all those opportunities, and the fact that we met, and we met some other incredible people. The brain does not process unless you keep a daily gratitude journal.
I love that.
And I keep that. And if I go 10 years down the line, everything I wrote in 2008, I've manifested.
Wow.
So therefore, I always encourage my clients and all those things that I do with my clients to really create a unique plan for themselves. That part of that plan is on keeping that journal to really remind yourself where you were.
Right.
And then, in a way, be grateful to this person who sits in here, who's gone through all of that and has nothing to forgive but to love.
Well, I am going to use one of those grateful moments right now and tell you thank you so very much for what you're doing for so many people in this world. Thank you for being and embodying the way out, the way to discover your freedom from slavery of the mind. Obviously, fighting modern day slavery is so important to me because I was enslaved inside my mind, and you are setting people free. You're showing them how to set themselves free. So thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. Everybody, get all of his books. Buy them for your friends, your family. Read them a million times. Change your life and never stop growing.